Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 250 of Manage the Wild. I'm your host, Nick Madsen. Today's topic is improving your ability to glass more animals. Now, some of you out there are real professionals and you're going to say, I already know it all. And I bet you're right. But there's people out there who always want to improve. One of them is me. I'm always looking at doing things differently. How can I improve? Because I'm not that great at anything. I do everything and I'm not great at anything. But this whole conversation got started because this morning I was glassing up some elk as well as deer. Came across 150 head of elk and they were just moving out through the meadow and it was crisp and clear. It was so in the mid 20s and the wind was about 10 miles an hour. And it just was such a good morning. And all of a sudden, a side by side pulls up next to me and he's like, "Where's the animals?" Well, they're out there. Just look. Well, I haven't seen anything. I think they all died. No, they didn't. Just stop. So I pointed to where all the elk were. He stopped and he ended up glassing there for what seemed like another hour. I'd moved on to do something else like work. But this guy got me thinking, like, why is it difficult for people to not find animals? There's a whole bunch that goes into being able to find animals and find animals consistently. Some of it's through practice. Some of it you're unaware that your brain has already done the calculations and you're like, oh, that's good habitat. Or I should see a deer there, or I should see a black bear there, or oh, I know that's going to be a moose in there. Your mind has already done a lot of the calculations for you without you being aware. And so for people, some people, they're just not aware of how to get to that point. A lot of us who do a lot of glassing, we know the basics. Pick a good glassing position, elevated position. You're looking over and covering as much ground as possible. Based upon your topography, you're going to have to move around a little bit. Make sure you just get in those little tight places because that's where the sucker's sitting, is in those places you can't see. You just know it. You're like, I gotta hike up onto that ridge just so I can look over 100 yards because that animal's within the 100 yards. The other thing that we all know is glass an area early that gets hit with sun right after the sun comes up because you will not be able to glass into the sun at all. Not all not all spots are going to be the high spots either. Sometimes you got to hike down low to be able to see up high. And just the better glass you have, the better binoculars you have, the better spotting scope you have, the better your situation's going to be. Okay, so we know all those things, but how do you take your glassing to the next ability? Like, I'm pretty confident, depending on the animal. Now, if it was a kangaroo mouse, I may suck at spotting animals. But depending on the animal, I'm pretty confident that I can walk into an area if they are to be found there and find one other than Bigfoot. That one, I've not glassed up Bigfoot. I once saw my dad walking through the woods. That's probably similar, but I've never seen Bigfoot. So I guess maybe I suck. I don't know. Maybe my ability is inflated by my ego. But how could I improve my ability to glass more animals? How can you improve yours? The one thing I thought that I absolutely don't do is I don't write squat down. Like, I know a guy who goes fishing and he writes down every fish he caught. If I did that one time, okay, one time I went to Alaska, fished with my parents. We had 32 doubles in one day. I'm not writing down 64 fish. And that's how I justify not writing down anything. But just hear me out. What if we wrote things down? Today, November 21st, 7:30 a.m., 26 degrees. temperature, wind is blowing 10 miles an hour, skies are clear, no snow on the ground. What if we started calculating and writing down that data? How is that going to change how we see more animals? I observed 150 head of elk. I observed 102 mule deer, including 32 bucks. How is that data going to help? Here's a couple of different ideas how that's going to help. It's going to bring a focus and attention, because if you're like, I always see a big buck in this area, and you write down the specific locations that you glass up, and you're actually a mile or two from where you always see a big buck, now you know, okay, I saw this buck in this drainage or at this GPS point, and this is the type of terrain, this is the type of habitat, this is the land use, whether it's public or private. You can start writing all these things down, and it's going to bring more attention to the things that are going to be more important. Okay, on this morning, I saw all the deer on the south facing slopes. And on this night, I saw all the elk on this north facing slope. Like, it's going to start to bring more attention and focus into those more important things that you don't necessarily know are important, but now you can start to reinforce things that you knew, or you can start to learn things that you may have not known before. If one of the things that you're bad at is paying attention to the type of habitat, for me, I would always grouse hunt. I would just walk around. I didn't know where grouse were to be found. But then I started looking at precise habitat requirements, and it helped me identify where grouse are located. You can do the same thing with mule deer and elk. Okay, I'm always observing elk at aspens in September this time of year. I'm always observing elk in pines this type of year. I'm always observing elk out in the sagebrush this time of year. It can start to bring trends and focuses and a pattern that you otherwise would have missed because you didn't write things down. It increases what you've learned, how you've learned it, and it takes such a small idea of being able to glass a lot of animals to understanding how these animals are using their landscape and how they are moving about and the different things that you need to look for. It's going to improve your overall observation skills. Snipers, when they are going through sniper training, they have to be able to draw out the landscape that looks how it looks before them, and what they're trying to do is understand and observe more and be able to take more detail in to help them understand when something is different. When there is a subtle change, they need to be able to recognize that. I would argue that hunters and wildlife enthusiasts and biologists all need better observation skills, better ways to see more animals. Also, it's going to give you time to reflect. So as you write these things down, you can come 6 weeks later and be like, okay, this is where I was at. This is what I'm now seeing. How is this different? What's different? It's gotten colder. It's gotten warmer. And start to see how things are changing. Also, it's going to help your communication with those in your party. If you are hunting with a large group and you start writing these things down, you're going to be more accurate in the information that you are giving them. If a person has a once in a lifetime bighorn sheep tag and you saw the biggest ram ever, you didn't write it down, you didn't know the area, then there's not a whole lot of detail to go on. So it's important for me when I'm working with a group, I believe, to start writing things down to get better data. And overall, you're just going to start to understand the animals more. By writing things down, you're going to understand the animals a lot better. You're going to be more accurate with your information, more accurate to your friends, but also more accurate with yourself. I didn't see any, and then you write down you saw 30 animals. And now you're starting to deal with your expectations and of all those different things. But I propose that the next time you go out glassing animals, take a notepad with you, write down, and see how that changes your glassing ability. All right, you guys, have a great day. Stay wild.